Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Jalen. We're going to be doing our New Orleans Bowl preview with me and Jalen, and we're going to be talking about the demolition of Cajun Field, the renovation that is going on over there with all the cranes, all the sounds, and the excitement here on this episode here of the Fishbowl Radio. Without further ado, let me introduce everybody to my co-host, Jalen. How you doing today, Jalen?
I'm doing well, Chief. It's another great day to be a raging Cajun. Sad to see Cajun Field getting taken down, but bigger things are to come.
Yeah, so let's talk about the New Orleans Bowl before we start talking about the demolition here at New Orleans Bowl. It's going to be happening this Saturday. Louisiana taking on Jacksonville State there. So we're going to go by position for each team, look at the categories, rushing, passing, and that all that good stuff there, defensive prowess of these teams here, and we'll see how they stack up against each other. So Vegas is giving Jacksonville State the edge in this one. They have a 3-point margin. They got negative. They're giving 3 points to Cajun. -3 is the point spread, and the over/under is set at 58.5. So comparing these two teams, let's look at the offensive stats here. So rushing yards per game across the entire country, Jacksonville State is averaging 232 rushing yards a game. The Cajuns are behind them at 183.5. Jacksonville State's rushing yardage is good enough per game to be considered ninth in the country. Now, the Raging Cajuns are 55th in the country in rushing. So there's a drop off there of about 50 yards between Jacksonville State and the Cajuns. So Jacksonville State is going to rely on their big offensive line, and their running backs are going to be able to get in the gaps there, and that's their strength of their offense, and maybe be able to find some holes against the Cajun defense. So passing yards per game, it's kind of a inverse. Cajuns are a little more balanced on offense than Jacksonville State. They're 227th in the country, even though that's not really. There's not that many FBS teams, so there's some FCS teams throwing up here in Yahoo's sports page here. Cajuns are 120th in the country on that. The Cajuns are their passing yards per game is 221 yards per game, while Jacksonville State's 165.6 yards per game through the air. So total yards, if you're looking at offense and combine them together, Cajuns are 77th and Jacksonville State is 83rd. So who gets in the end zone more? So points forward, and points against is a big margin as well. Points against, Jacksonville State's 88th. Cajuns are 222nd. That's 338 to 244. So Jacksonville State's got a pretty good defense against holding them out of the end zone at least. Points forward, they got 358. They're 225th in the country. Cajuns are 249th. So let's go look here at the last 5 games that both these teams played. Cajuns are 2-3. Their last game was a win against ULM, 52-21. Jacksonville State's last win was against New Mexico State, 20-17. So, looking at these teams here, that's how the team ranks schedule up here. So, let's go look at, a little bit more detailed oriented report here. So, key stats here. Total yards throughout the whole entire season, Cajuns are 4,864. Jacksonville State's got 4,774. Cajuns have 2,662 net yards of passing. Jacksonville State hasn't even cracked 2,000. They're at 1,987. So rushing, they're at 2,787. Cajuns are at 2,202 yards on the ground as well. So first downs, Jacksonville State got the edge by 5. They're at 258. Cajuns are at 253. Penalties, the Cajuns are the more penalized team. They have 75 penalties for a total of 625 yards, whereas Jacksonville State's at 61 penalties at 544. So, as we have looked at the offensive side of these things here, Jalen, what are some stats that stick out to you when we compare both these offenses in this game?
In terms of offense and the fact that you were just reading about Jacksonville State's offense, I think they're going to run a lot. I mean, I'm reading some articles right now. And also, I was reading earlier that they had the 4th most rushing attempts in the nation, trailing Air Force, Liberty, and Army. So there's going to be a lot of rushing. They rely on rushing. They have a senior quarterback in Zion Webb, who is in his seventh year of eligibility. He got approved 7 years. You don't find too many college football players with that much experience, and he's had over 1,000 yards passing and rushing for over 600. So the Cajuns, offensively, they have Chandler Fields, who after Ben Wool just got hurt, and then Zion Chris got hurt, and Chandler Fields is a great story because Chandler started as a Cajun, and then he played a few games, and then got benched. And he's been through a lot of adversity, but he's helped the Cajuns get to where they are right now by being bowl eligible. So I think it's going to be great offenses going back and forth. I think that Chandler can get it done just like he did against ULM, who is a weaker defense, I would say. But I think the Cajuns can go back and forth with Jacksonville State offensively.
Well, so I like looking at trends. Trends are a very good thing to look at whenever you're looking at both these ball clubs, and this is what Jacksonville State's trends are. So, as a favorite, Jacksonville State is 4-1, and they have a tie, so they cover about 80% of the time. And in this game, they're coming in as a 3-point favorite over the Cajuns here. So that is something to look at as well. Non-conference games, they're 3-1, so they cover about 75% of those. So they're looking pretty good. As like you can almost say that they're an away team in this one because New Orleans is the Cajuns' home away from home. As an away favorite, they're 1-1, so they're like 50% cover as well there as well. So they look pretty good, and they did lose their last game against New Mexico State after a loss. They are undefeated after a loss. So like this isn't shaping up too well to be good for the Cajuns for sure. If you're looking at trends sake, as for trends sake there. So if you look at the Cajuns trends here and kind of go look a little bit deeper and see what their over under against the spread results, we'll go look at that real quick here so y'all can get an idea of what's actually going on here. So the line was like for the last couple of games, the Cajuns, I'm gonna look at the last 4 games when they went through that little stretch where so they were favored by 7 points over Arkansas State and they lost by 20. They were favored 7.5 against Southern Miss, ended up losing by 3. They were underdogs by 16. They ended up covering that one. They were only lost by 7. So they were favored by 12.5 against ULM and they won by 31. So that looked pretty good for in that regard there. So what is actually going to happen, I think, is, that's kind of something we have to look at here. So as far as trends go, it doesn't look good for the Cajuns. Jalen, what you think about that? What the trends say?
I mean, the trends are like you said. They would Jacksonville State would win a game and lose a game, but then they come back and win. They played Sun Belt team before in Coastal Carolina. They lost two, so they have an advantage of playing a Sun Belt team. In the case, I mean, yeah, the trends are there, the numbers are there, saying that the Cajuns are going to lose. But the way I see it is like, yeah, Jacksonville State has an experienced quarterback. They're tops in the nation when it comes to rushing. But the way I see it, the Cajuns can stop the run game, which they've been hard to stop. Cajuns hard to stop teams running all year. But if they could just stop the run in this one game, I think they have a chance to win because offensively, Chandler can spread the ball around, and not only that, defensively, they can cause a few turnovers and help the offense out. So you don't never know how this game is going to play out. I think it will actually be a close game, and Jacksonville State will favor by 3. I think it actually could be a 3-point game, or whoever has possession last will win. I think it's going to be a great game, but I think the game plan for the Cajuns is defensively. You just got to stop the run because if Jacksonville State beats the Cajuns in the air, then hats off to them. They deserve to win. But if they're relying on their bread and butter rushing, and you let that happen, the Cajuns are going to lose.
I think the defensive game plan for the Cajuns is very simple. Put 8 in the box and force them to beat you through the air. I think that is one thing that we can all agree on. If you're like, I mean, if you're just a casual football fan and you know schemes and stuff here, go after them, do a run blitz, get in the backfield, disrupt some plays there, overload one side of the ball, and then make sure they can't get comfortable back there in the pocket. whether he's going back there to throw or just hand it off there. This swarm, having a swarming defense would be really well for the Cajuns here. So, as an underdog, the Cajuns are 3-1 against the spread here. So, after a loss, Cajuns are 5-1. If you want to look at like as a favorite, the Cajuns don't perform well being a favorite. So this is actually a very good thing for the Cajuns. They're 2-6 against the spread as a favorite. So they only cover about 25% of the time anyway. In non-conference games against the spread, they're 1-3. So this one could go either way. After a win against the spread, the Cajuns are 0-5. So this does not look good for the Cajuns as far as trends go. So I really don't really know what to expect in this ball game here. I think the Cajuns can go out on there and stuff the run as much as they want here, but you gotta like that back end. Is your corners going to keep up with their receivers? I think they are. I think Jacksonville State, though, you got to get pressure back there in the backfield. The Cajuns cannot get pressure in the backfield. They're going to lose this ball game here because Jacksonville State is going to try to run the ball. I mean, the data backs it up, and it's clear as day what you can expect to see out there on game day. So they're going to try to either run, they might do a toss play, they might try to go run it right up the middle. You don't know what they're going to try to do out there. Maybe do a trick play, make them think that you're doing running the ball, then have your safeties cheat up and they do a deep pass with their running back down the field. I mean, look, there's a bunch of possibilities when you get into bowl games and you got a whole month to prepare. Jacksonville State may very well on the first play of that game might do a fake trick play because you're expecting them to run the ball. So if they cheat up, they might get beat over the top with a pass, and that's going to keep the Cajuns back there for the rest of the game here because you're
That's a good.
expecting them to do that.
That's a good
So
point.
yeah, like like you have like if you look planning an offense, you got to look at what they think you're going to do, and then you kind of like counteract, like, oh, they run the ball a lot this year, or we saw this tape, we know this formation, but you kind of switch it up a little bit and keep them honest with it. So that's just something that could possibly happen out there. Now, the Cajuns, this is their sixth consecutive bowl game here, and I think we have to ask the question: if Desimo loses this bowl game here, is he on the hot seat, Jalen?
Uh yes. And the reason I say yes on the hot seat is because they lost last year to Houston up there in Shreveport. You finished you finished the season 6-7. Technically, you're under 500. Yeah, you did clinch another bowl game this year, but if you lose again, you'll finish the season again 6-7, and it's not a good look for your first 2 years as a head coach who used to be the offensive coordinator for this team under Billy Napier. First 2 years as a head coach, Michael Desimo loses a bowl game. It's not a good look, and going into year three, it's going to really raise some eyebrows. I honestly, it's it's going to be tough for him to to win games next year, especially with a lot of those guys leaving. And it's just not the Cajuns' future is in question, and Dez's job is going to be in question if they lose this bowl game.
I think and also the elephant in the room here, which we'll talk about the demolition thing right after this here, after we make our pick here. So, as far as my pick, I think the Cajuns are gonna stop the run. I think they'll figure out a way to stop the run. I think they'll win because I think the Sun Belt peers, there's better conference, a lot more parity. So what you saw with Coastal Carolina is about what you would see every weekend in the Sun Belt. So I think there's a lot of parity going on with the sport. Level of competition is higher, obviously, in the Sun Belt Conference than it is Conference USA. And I think that level of play helps the Cajuns in this particular game. And I think they'll beat Jacksonville State. Who you got, Jalen?
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm going with the Cajuns in this one. There's no way that the Cajuns are going to let Jacksonville State run them out of New Orleans. Like I just don't see that happening. Coach Dez is not going to let that happen. Those players are not going to let that happen on defense. They're going to stop the run. They're going to force Jacksonville State to pass, and Jacksonville State is not going to be up to the challenge. Like you said, the Conference USA is a weaker conference in the Sun Belt. Sun Belt had 12 teams make it to a bowl game. The Cajuns should win this one.
All right, so let's go talk about the demolition. The fishbowl radio is there, getting video and up close video. We got some really nice video of the demolition going on there. We were live streaming for a little bit there, but it's gonna be a 2 year process, and it'd be kind of cool. I would love to go look at it for like a year on the date when we did it. To kind of like look at that kind of thing, how much they progress in a year. So, um, the demolition matters a lot. And if Desimo loses this final game and he just makes it to a bowl game, let's say if he finishes 6-6 again next year, I think he's going to get fired even if he wins it next year because I don't see them being able to open up a brand new stadium with a coach that has a losing record. That just won't do things for attendance when you're trying to make all that money back that you spend into the university. So he's got to perform. If he doesn't get it done this year, he's going to have to turn it around in year three. What you think, Jalen?
Oh yeah, year three, they're gonna have to win the Sun Belt. Like if they lose this game against Jacksonville State, a team that they should defeat going into 2025, when you're thinking about the Lady of Lords, the brand new stadium, everybody is going to come just to see how it is. And when you think about the people that's putting the money down for this, building this new stadium, they're going to think in the back of their head, hey, we have a coach that for 2 years, yeah, he made it to a bowl game, but he lost it in back-to-back years. Like, if these guys don't win the Sun Belt, we're going to have to go in a different direction because we're going to get somebody that we want, that we know that will establish a winning culture. And at some point you think about it and be like, okay, is that Coach Des? But only he can prove them wrong by winning.
Yeah, I mean that's the fault of it, right? That's the devil's advocate of seeing like, hey, if you lose this one, you're kind of like got your back against the wall for sure because you would have two losing seasons. And toward the end of Coach Huspett's era here, he was struggling for the last one that we saw get fired and canned from UL. He had it was 2015, then they went 4-8. Then I think they went to New Orleans, we ended up 6-7, kind of on the same kind of path. Maggard, brought in Napier, then they had a 5-7 year in 2017. So you're following the same path there that the predecessors before you had. So, and Maggard did pull the trigger on Hudspeth whenever all that went down. So, um, I like Des. Des is a nice guy, but it's a results business, and that's just it's. I don't think it's nothing personal with anybody. I think it's just a business decision at some point. So, we'll see what happens this weekend. Speaking of which, Cajuns women's basketball and Cajuns men are currently underway right now. I think the women are about to wrap things up here pretty soon. So, Jaylen, anything you want to say before I get off the air here?
I just want to tell everybody that yeah, we are like talking about Coach Des and how he needs to win. But like you said, Chief, Des is a terrific guy. I got a chance to meet him at Sunbelt Media Day in the summer, talking to him, asking questions. He's a great guy. He's a great coach. He just needs to keep winning, and it starts right here with this bowl game.
All right, thank you all for tuning into the Fishbowl Radio. Hope you have a great, wonderful time here. Hope you all enjoyed this New Orleans Bowl preview edition here of the Fishbowl Radio. Hope you have a great, wonderful night. We'll see y'all next time here on the Fishbowl Radio.